And we are alive. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, Dr. Ross, for being here with us. Actually, I did not ask you, how do I address you? Do I say Dr.
Lots is
P?
fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for joining in. It's an honor. Just to let the audience know a bit more about you, though I'm pretty sure by now they know because they've been watching me post about you for the past few days. But Dr. Ross is the originator of research-based approach now called collaborative and proactive solutions. And I start with this because I want people to remember this, apart from the fact that, mashallah, you're a world-renowned author, you have wonderful books. Those books were my way of seeing how the world, subhanahu wa ta'ala, like how the world is, understanding child behavior. The Explosive Child is the book that I studied thoroughly. I did a book summary about that book as well. And so my question to you, Dr. Ross, is first and foremost, how are you today?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good too. Thank you so much. The audiences, they're joining in. Thank you for joining in. Please, if you have any questions while doctor is speaking, do feel free to ask. Dr. Ross, I've read extensively about you, and I know I had said this, that I don't know even where to start with this, but the Explosive Child came into being out of the necessity of, if you would like to let the audience know.
The necessity of understanding why some kids respond to problems and frustrations so poorly.
Mm-hmm.
The frustration of recognizing that what's really getting in their way is not going to be well addressed
Mm-hmm.
by traditional discipline. It came into being because I saw many parents and many educators who were very frustrated that the only advice they were giving, the only guidance they were being given, was the traditional approach.
Right.
That's why there's this model.
Right. So, and I know, I understand that you have been at Harvard. You have done a lot of studies. I was listening to your interviews, and one of the interviews and one of the talks that you were giving was this is wonderful because I want the audience to understand. You say that we, as normal human beings in everyday functioning, we have hindsight, we have forethought, we have impulse control. Right. However, when we're dealing with issues with these children specifically, these are the things that they're lagging. And the term that you coined is lagging skills. Dr. Ross, would you like to please address that? What is lagging skills and how to even understand that my child has lagging skills? Because one of the things is that parents want their child to be perfect, right? So please.
Well, good luck with the perfect stuff. But what the research tells us is that what a lot of people were thinking all along about why kids exhibit concerning behaviors was wrong. What the traditional belief is that the kid is lacking motivation.
Yes.
And therefore, a lot of adults thought that it was their job to use motivational strategies, rewarding, punishing, to get the kid to do what the kid was having difficulty doing.
Right, absolutely.
That's not what the research tells us about these kids. And this research has accumulated over the last 40 to 50 years. And what the research tells us is that these kids are lacking skills. And you named a few of them.
Yeah.
But most of those skills are related to things like problem solving and frustration tolerance and regulating one's emotions and impulse control. We like to think that all kids are created equal when it comes to those skills. All kids are not created equal when it comes to those skills.
Absolutely.
All kids are not created equal when it comes to any skill. Reading, writing, arithmetic. The kids I've been working with for the last 30 years, and there's thousands of them at this point, are clearly lacking skills. And here's the important part. Rewards and punishments are not going to fix that.
Right, right. And we are so gung-ho on rewards and punishments, the carrot and stick idea. In traditional understanding of parenting, and now I understand parenting has been glossed over, but there's authoritative parenting, authoritarian parenting, all the types of parenting, be a chill parent kind of parenting. it's not easy to have an explosive child with you. And what would you say are the earliest interventions that a parent needs to take? Because I saw the movie, and I highly recommend people seeing the movie, The Kids We Lose. It's a impactful movie. And what I saw in that movie was the parents were not realizing until they sent their children to school, they were coping with the child and their behaviors at home, thinking it's normal or it's just a bit different from the rest of the kids that they had or that were around. So the earliest interventions, how would you suggest that?
Well, and by the way, I would use this model with any kid.
Yes.
The earliest intervention is to notice that there's something that your child is struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an intervention all by itself. Notice. Next, you need to figure out what your kid's lagging skills are.
Right.
And as you know, we have an instrument that we use called the Assessment of Lagging Skills and Unsolved Problems to help caregivers do that. It's free. It's on the Lives in the Balance website.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll give people the web address for that.
Yes.
Once you figure out your kid's lagging skills, you stop saying things like attention-seeking, manipulative, coercive, unmotivated, limit testing, lazy, blah, blah, blah. And you start coming to view your kid through the prism of lagging skills. And that is an awakening for many caregivers.
Absolutely.
The second thing the assessment of lagging skills is going to help people do is figure out what are the expectations my child is having difficulty meeting. You see, kids don't exhibit concerning behaviors when they're not having difficulty meeting your expectations. They're only exhibiting concerning behaviors, whether it is hitting, screaming, swearing, or crying, pouting, sulking, withdrawing.
Yes.
Kids exhibit those behaviors when they are having difficulty meeting certain expectations, like cleaning the table after dinner, emptying the dishwasher, being in bed by 8:30 p.m., doing homework, getting off the Xbox to come into dinner. These are all expectations. Many kids don't have any difficulty meeting those expectations, but the kids who do exhibit concerning behaviors when they're having difficulty meeting those expectations. The problem is that a lot of caregivers are focused on the behaviors.
Right.
That's not what you're doing in this model. And what are they busy doing with those behaviors?
Mm-hmm.
Rewarding the ones they like and punishing the ones they don't.
Right.
But the behavior comes second. I always tell people the behavior is at the end of the story.
Right.
At the beginning of the story are the expectations your child is having difficulty meeting that are causing those behaviors. In this model, we call those unmet expectations unsolved problems. And now the caregiver's role in the life of this kid has become crystal clear. You're not worried about modifying your child's behavior anymore. You are worried about identifying and solving the problems that are causing that behavior. And by the way, once a problem is solved, it doesn't cause concerning behavior anymore. It's only unsolved problems that cause concerning behavior.
Unsolved problems that cause concerning behavior. Doctor, I know this might sound a very common sense question, but parents consider a lot of things as unsolved problems. The ones that you identified: cleaning the dinner table, putting the dishes back, doing your homework, not being able to understand a simple concept in math or science or whatever. So where is the differentiation? How does empathy kick in here?
Well, empathy is one of the 3 steps that are involved in solving one of these problems. It's called the empathy step.
Yep.
And this is where you are gathering information from the kid about what's making it hard for the kid to meet a particular expectation.
Mm-hmm.
A good example that I frequently used, I was doing a podcast like this with a father about 1.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And his 3-year-old daughter was having, here's the unmet expectation, here's the unsolved problem, difficulty brushing her teeth before she went to bed at night.
Right.
Now, here's the interesting thing. This is where we adults go wrong so often.
Mm-hmm.
He thought he already knew what was making it hard for her to brush her teeth before going to bed at night. He thought it was the taste of the toothpaste. So without even asking her, he bought 8 to 10 different flavors of toothpaste over the next 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months later, she was still having difficulty brushing her teeth before she went to bed at night. So finally, he did the empathy step. And what did he find out? When he used the electric toothbrush on her teeth, it got water all over her face, and she didn't like that very much. As I said to him, now there is a concern that 8 to 10 different flavors of toothpaste would never address. The empathy step is where we adults are gathering information from the kid about what's making it hard for them to meet a particular expectation. And the most important skill that adults need to exhibit in the empathy step is the most important form of empathy: listening.
Listening. One of the arts that parents forget because we think we're in the position to just talk.
You think you know. So if you forget the empathy step, you will never know what's making it hard for your kid to meet the expectation, and this problem will remain unsolved. By the way, the biggest complaint I get from kids is that their parents won't listen.
Absolutely.
The biggest complaint I get from parents is that their kid won't talk to them. The empathy step is very important. Want to hear about the other 2 steps?
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
The second step is called the Define Adult Concern step. This is where the adult is entering his or her concern into consideration on the same unsolved problem. We adults have very important concerns too. There's a good reason you want your kid to brush her teeth before she goes to bed at night. So the father's concern was he didn't want her to get cavities because it hurts to get cavities filled, and it costs a lot of money to get cavities filled. So adult concerns usually answer the question, why is it important that this expectation be met? Mm-hmm. How is the problem affecting the kid? Mm-hmm. How is the problem affecting other people? So mm-hmm. Now here's the good part. We now have 2 sets of concerns on the table.
Affecting the kid? How do we solve the problem?
Well, the kid doesn't want to get water all over her face when she's getting her teeth brushed. Mm-hmm. The father doesn't want to spend a lot of money on cavities and doesn't want his daughter to endure the pain that is involved in getting cavities filled.
Right.
We are now ready for step number 3. By the way, we haven't given in yet. There's no giving in this model. Okay. We haven't given up yet. There's no giving up in this model. All we've done so far is get the concerns of both parties on the table. The third step is called the invitation. This is where kid and adult are collaborating on a solution.
Okay.
But a solution that must meet 2 criteria. Got to be realistic. Mm-hmm. Both parties got to be able to do what they're agreeing to do. Mm-hmm. Got to be mutually satisfactory, meaning the solution truly addresses the concerns of both parties.
Okay.
Here's what I've been saying a lot lately, and world history bears me out on it.
Okay.
If a solution is not realistic and mutually satisfactory, I promise you this problem is still unsolved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For a layman who's listening to you for the first time, their question will be, and I hear this because I myself am a parent coach, I hear this, oh, I asked them nicely, I gave them stickers or reward, I promised them something, I was very patient, but they were consistently saying no. So now, where am I wrong? And isn't my child stubborn?
Well, your child is certainly having difficulty meeting an expectation.
Yeah.
And your child is definitely communicating that to you in one way or another. The word no is one way of communicating that.
Right.
But here's one thing I can tell you. You just heard the 3 steps of solving a problem collaboratively.
Right.
You didn't hear anything about stickers.
Yeah.
You didn't hear anything about asking nicely.
Right.
Kat, asking nicely is not one of the 3 steps.
Right.
Punishing is not one of the 3 steps.
Right.
Rewarding is not one of the 3 steps.
And I heard you a lot about the reward punishment thing. Okay, please go ahead. Sorry.
Well, stickers are not one of the 3 steps. So You're either doing the 3 steps or you're not.
Right. Right. You're either doing those 3 steps or you are not. Dr. Ross, one question that kept coming to my mind while I was watching the movie, The Kids We Lose, is why is it that now more than ever we are finding ADHD increasing? Because this question has been asked over and over again. Dr. Ross, can you just excuse me? Rumaisa, can you please take the cat away? Can you please take the cat away? Sorry about that. He's our new kitten. So because this was my concern, because a lot of parents keep asking about ADHD, and I understand that maybe science, maybe tests, maybe our methodology wasn't as sophisticated 20 years ago. Today it is. So the question is there really an increase in ADHD and the prescription of it? And
well, one thing is for sure, there is increased awareness of ADHD.
Okay.
So that's not a bad thing. It's good that we are now aware that there are some kids who are more inattentive, more hyperactive, and or more impulsive than the rest. That's good to know, right? That's something we'd want to understand. Why would ADHD be being diagnosed more? Because people are more sensitized to it, but also because the demands for attention span on kids have increased over the last 20 to 30 years. The demands for kids to sit still have increased over the last 30 to 40 years. So the more you increase certain demands, the more kids are going to fall off the apple cart, because if the demands were lower, it would have been less noticeable. But if the demands are higher for certain expectations, then there are going to be more kids who have difficulty meeting those expectations.
Right. So demands on the kids have increased. What I like about your work, and this is a reason that I highly want parents who are on this in the spectrum of behavioral issues with their children, collaborative and proactive solutions, CPS. I have given the link to the website. Please check it out. Is that nowhere here have you said medicate them to calm them down? I know that is one of the areas that parents do have to go there. And in the movie, The Kids We Lose, yesterday there was a parent. There were 8 children and 1 young adult, Dylan, that was throughout the movie. And one of the parents said that they put him on medication. I think that was first kid, Joshua, probably. I'm not sure. But we put the kid on medication and the kid was sleeping the whole time. And how is the kid going to be educated if the child is sleeping the whole time, right? So there are so many concerns that come in with medication, with behavioral issues. And that is why CPS, I think, is a wonderful initiative, and it's definitely helping people around. I even saw that it's you provide this education for practitioners, teachers all around the world.
All around the world.
Yep. All around
However,
the world.
at the moment, I don't have anybody in any Muslim countries.
Yep.
So we might have some work to do together.
Right.
But let me be clear, I'm not anti-medication.
I know, I do understand that. Yeah.
I just want to make sure your listeners do. What I'm anti is prescribing psychotropic medications for things that psychotropic medications don't do very well. So there's a very finite number of things that medicines do well when it comes to children's challenge concerning behaviors. The medications can reduce hyperactivity. Medications can improve attention span. Medications can improve impulse control. Medications sometimes can enhance a kid's mood. Medications sometimes can reduce anxiety in kids. And medications can give a kid a longer fuse, what we might call an emotional muffler.
Emotional muffler.
Generally speaking, that's the short list of things psychotropic medications do well. The problem is not that medications do those things well. That's great that we have medications that do some of those things well. The problem is that they're often overprescribed because people are not sure what else to do. And they're often being prescribed by people who aren't necessarily that good at prescribing them.
Yes.
And so we have kids who are on sometimes too much medication. We have kids who are not on the right medications. Yeah. That's the problem. So the problem is not that we have medications that work. That's actually a good thing. I'm very conservative about medicating kids, but if a kid needs medicine, I don't hesitate.
Right, right. Huh. So Dr. Ross, there was a reason that this movie came out, The Kids We Lose. It was about how our schooling systems are not apt enough to handle these children. You said a very poignant point. I have all those points written somewhere, but I just, so that the screen does not lose, I'm not bringing those out. But you say that punishing the kid sends the message to the kid that he is somehow faulty, deficient, and something is wrong with them. This idea of shaming the child into thinking that something is wrong with them. And the interviewers, when they were asking the children, how did you feel? And one of the child, he says, the one who was paddled, he said, well, it happened to me because I was not behaving. So how detrimental is it? I want you to let the people know, the audience know how detrimental it is when we do not have the skills and we basically punish the children. How does that escalate?
First of all, hitting a kid is an act of aggression.
Right.
So when it comes to hitting kids, count me out.
Right.
Whether it's spanking or paddling a kid at school, the last thing we'd want to do is use an act of aggression to address anything. Aggression begets aggression. I don't want to teach this kid that the way problems get solved is through an act of aggression, right? That's bad training for kids.
Yeah.
But secondly, maybe more importantly, I'm not sure which is more important. It doesn't matter. It's not working because just like stickers are not one of those 3 steps.
Right.
Hitting a kid is not one of those 3 steps.
Right.
And what happens with a lot of these kids, and a lot of them are in the movie,
yes,
they just keep getting punished, and the punishment keeps not working. I'm sure many of the people who are listening right now have punished their kids till they couldn't think of anything else to do, and it still didn't work.
Yeah,
that's because punishment, no matter what it is, hitting, paddling, rewards, no matter what it is, stickers, special treats, don't solve the problems that are causing the behaviors that we're hitting kids for in the first place. So number one, it's a complete waste because it's not working. Number two, you're teaching a kid that when there's difficulty, you use aggression to deal with it.
Right.
Both are bad.
Right. Right. And continuing with this on the topic of aggression and punishment, when parents continue to focus on behavioral issues and not focusing on the resolved expectations, there's a mistrust that develops. Can that, how do we get back that trust so that the children can express their concerns with unresolved expectations? And okay, first this and then I'll say something.
Well, to tell you the truth, what I find is that when parents or other caregivers change what they're doing, kids respond. The kid may not trust it completely in the beginning because they've got a long history of the caregivers doing things another way. Kids respond to feeling heard. Kids respond to adults who are actually curious about what's making it hard for the kid to meet a particular expectation.
Right.
Kids who have their concerns heard are more willing to listen to adults' concerns.
Right.
And people who are listening to each other are more likely to get together to solve problems together. This is human nature. Why would we do things any differently with kids? Why would we teach our kids something completely different when later in life, whether it's marriage or business or you name it, they're going to have to know how to collaborate to solve problems?
Well, I think we're losing that skill thanks to our phones. People are not even communicating in the house. One of the problems that our this generation Gen Zers have is communication. They're smart, when it comes to face-to-face conversations, when it comes to articulating what's happening, they'd rather text than speaking.
Here's the interesting thing. I've done the collaborative process by text with a lot of kids.
Awesome.
If a kid is having difficulty talking with me face to face, I'm okay with that. I'm going to meet with the kid where the kid is at, right? You can collaborate by text. It wouldn't be my preference, right? But here's the interesting thing about this generation. They are very into self-care.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They do express themselves well.
Yes.
Sometimes they are not quite as good at caring for others.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be a place for empathy and listening to other people's concerns and solving problems in a way that works for both parties. That's going to happen with every generation, this one included.
Absolutely. There's a question here, Dr. Ross. It says, can you please give examples of, okay, do not mind the question. Can you please give examples of punishment or timeout that doesn't damage the kid?
No.
I understand, because we've already said that we do not believe in punishment, but actually conversations. Dr. Ross, okay, you've been working in this field for so many years. You came up with this wonderful program, right? The collab, and I keep repeating so that it rings with the people. They absorb it. Collaborative and proactive solutions, the Plan B. If you have not looked up Dr. Ross, or if you have not read his books, please do. Have the parents become more impatient over the years?
You know, I think everybody is more stressed out. Everybody's crazy busy. It takes 2 incomes to produce the lifestyle that 1 income used to. We all want to make sure that our kids are leading enriching lives and taking advantage of every single opportunity that is available to them. Everybody's busy. Everybody's stressed. Busy, stressed out people don't tend to be very patient.
And on top of that, if you have a behavioral issue with a child, then what do you do?
If you have a kid with concerning behaviors and you are impatient, your life is going to be worse.
Yeah. Yep.
It takes time to listen. It takes time to solve problems with kids. But I can tell you this, solving problems collaboratively with kids takes a whole lot less time than having to deal with all those behaviors over 5 or 10 years. That takes way more time.
Absolutely. I know this question isn't pertaining to what we're talking about. Maybe it is. I'll let you be the judge of it. Doctor, can you comment on effects of sleeping patterns on children, adolescents, mental health behavior? How to convince the children or adolescent to sleep early and get up early?
Well, sleep is important. No one knows that better than me. Sleep's a big deal. Sleep's a big deal for kids. If a kid is having difficulty meeting your expectations for sleep, you have an unsolved problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Persuasion is not one of the 3 steps that I went through earlier.
Yep.
Cajoling, convincing, bribing. Mm-hmm. Those are not any of the 3 steps. So right. It's good that you have an expectation for how much sleep that your kid should get. It's not good that your kid is having difficulty meeting that expectation. How would I deal with that unsolved problem? 3 steps. In the empathy step, I would be understanding by asking questions and listening what's making it so hard for the kid to get that amount of sleep every night. In the second step, I would be talking about why I think it's so important for the kid to get that sleep, either because of how it's affecting the kid that they're not getting that much sleep, and or how it's affecting others that the kid is not getting enough sleep. And in the third step, we would try to come up with a solution that addresses the concerns of both parties. Mm-hmm. None of that is persuading. None of that is cajoling. That's straight up solving problems collaboratively and proactively.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I know you have to leave in a few minutes. Questions are coming in. This says, how can I get my son of 7 years to calm down and take instruction critically? 7 years.
Whatever you are giving your son instructions critically about, whether that's taking a bath at night or doing homework or clearing the table after dinner. What you want to do is transform your critical instruction into unsolved problems.
Right.
You wouldn't be giving your child critical instruction if they were meeting a particular expectation. The reason you're giving your child critical instruction is because they're not.
Right.
Now it's the 3 steps, but first you've got to come up with your list of unsolved problems. And what we first started talking about earlier, the first step, fill out the assessment of lagging skills and unsolved problems for your child so you know what problems you're trying to solve. Truth is, I've worked with a lot of parents who gave their child critical instruction on the same unsolved problem for 5 years and didn't make any headway on it because they never did the 3 steps. All they did was give their kid critical instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Your kid knows what you want them to do. He doesn't need instructions. If he's having difficulty meeting it, he needs us caregivers to figure out what's getting in the way. Why do we think it's important that that expectation be met? And to come together on solutions that address the concerns of both parties. That's what they need.
Definitely. There's a very good comment by Sister Len. She says, remember, this process includes parents looking critically at their own behavior. Like we said, parents are stressed, they are rushing things, they have these expectations. When their expectations are not met, challenge occurs. And if there's already a behavioral issue, the child, if it's not processing what the parent is asking them to do, it becomes difficult. Another question came in, Doctor, and this is related more towards the change of generation, traditions. So it says, one challenge we see is that during one lifetime in one generation, things have changed so much that it's a new world. How do we balance what our traditional values have been with the new norms? How we as parents try to deal with this, what worked for us versus what we need to change to cope with the problems of today?
What a great question.
Yeah.
With traditional values, parents have certain expectations for their kid. That hasn't changed. Yeah. You still have expectations for your kid. Mm-hmm. So far, so good. With traditional values, there may have been a tendency to lean on traditional ways of dealing with kids who are having difficulty meeting those expectations. Mm-hmm. That might have to change. But even according to traditional values, we want to do what's best for our kid. There is some biblical scripture that says something. I'm not the most biblical guy in the world, but each child according to his own plan.
Yep.
You've got to meet each kid where they're at.
Right.
That's embedded in traditional culture.
Right.
So this idea that the only interventions you can rely upon, if you want to stay traditional, mm-hmm. is interventions that aren't working for your child, mm-hmm. makes no sense. Mm-hmm. It is perfectly within traditional values to mm-hmm. do what's working for your child. And if the old ways of doing things are not working for your child, do things differently. But you still have expectations, so you're still good.
Right. Absolutely. There's another question. Sister Hansa, she's asking how to heal a 12-year-old who has absorbed a lot of criticism, timeouts, and punishment at school and at home.
You might have some work to do with the folks at school. You can advocate with the school to try to get them to do things differently. My book, Lost at School, should help them out if they're willing to read it. Mm-hmm. Here's what I find. 12-year-old, 15-year-old, 18-year-old, 2-year-old. If we change the way we're doing things, mm-hmm. if we start doing things in a way that works, your kid will come along.
Right.
And those things will be a thing of the past. So I don't know if we can repair the damage done. We can start doing things differently right now. And that damage will be minimized.
When you open the book, The Explosive Child, there's this conversation, the pancake story, right?
Yes,
where
waffle.
Yes, the waffle story. And it was good to see that both the parents had different a way of dealing, and it was the mom who studied more, who studied further, who came up with the plan, and then she brought the dad on board. But the dad wanted their child, wanted their family life to become better. Dr. Ross, in so many years of your work, your research, the conferences that you've been in, how many times have you actually asked parents to please be on the same page, and in your one-on-one personal interactions with patients, with these children and their parents, how difficult it is to bring both the parents, their parenting style together? Because I think to deal with this situation, that's the most integral part.
Right. Here's what I can tap into.
Okay.
No parent wants things to be going badly for their kid. No parent wants to be their kid's enemy. No parent wants to do something that's not working. In this model, what I have to, when I'm dealing with a traditional parent, I have to reassure them, don't worry, your expectations will be met without all the damage that you're causing by doing things in the way that you're doing them, and your expectations still aren't being met, right? So that parent is still getting what they were looking for, without going about trying to do it in a way that's damaging and in a way that isn't working anyways. Right? To the parent who's been more passive, I say, well, I understand why you've been passive. You want peace in your family. And you've got this the co-parent here who's setting your kid off every day, 5 times a day. Yes. I understand your desire for peace.
Right.
Here's what you two have to come together on. You have to come together on what expectations is your kid having difficulty meeting. That's actually not hard to get parents to come together on. And you have to come together on which expectations are your top priority to start working on first. That's not that difficult to get parents to come together on.
Right.
And then I've got to help them learn a new skill. And they're both learning the new skill. The passive parent has to learn a new skill because they're now solving problems. And the traditional parent has to learn a new skill because the way they've been trying to deal with those problems has not been working and has been causing a lot of conflict. I don't have that much trouble getting parents on the same page because in this model, they are coming together anyways.
Yes, because
those two things.
Okay. The parents who are reaching out to you already have this idea that we need help. I know the time is short, but there's one last question. And Sister Fatima, we have answered this, but I will ask him how to guide a 6-year-old to control frustration when he says, I can't control at times, and that's why I hit sometimes. I mean, the child is hitting when he's frustrated. And how to help such a boy who keeps asking help to control it at this age. He's asking for help.
Start solving the problems that are causing him to be frustrated in the first place. I don't think you're going to make a lot of headway by working on frustration globally. You are going to make a lot of headway by solving the problems that are causing that frustration. And then slowly but surely, those problems will start getting solved. And the more problems you solve, the less you and your child are going to feel like he or she has a problem with frustration, because it's only unsolved problems that cause frustration. Solved problems don't.
Solved problems don't. Thank you so much, Dr. Ross, for your time. It was an honor to be speaking with you. And I have noted this down, that there aren't any Muslim countries that are practicing collaborative and proactive solutions, and we need to get this on board. We'll definitely keep in touch with you on that matter.
You'll be hearing from me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody who joined in. And please, the links that I have posted, check those out. Check out Dr. Ross's books, inshallah. Dr. Ross, what is the new project that you're working on? If you don't mind me asking,
which new project? The biggest new project that we're working on is my nonprofit Lives in the Balance is greatly expanding its advocacy efforts.
Right.
On the heels of The Kids We Lose, the film.
Okay.
We want to make sure that people are aware what we're still doing to kids.
Yes.
In the year 2021, still doing damage, still causing trauma, still doing things that aren't working. We need to make sure that people know about that legislators know about that, so that ultimately we can stop doing those things to kids.
Absolutely. Please do check out the movie if you can. It's on Amazon Prime. So,
It
uh,
is.
yep. And look at the movie with a lot of, I don't know, Braveheart.
You got to be prepared to see things that are very disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Doctor, once again.
My
And
pleasure.
thank you as well. And God bless you and have a great day.
Thanks for inviting me to do this.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
And thank you everybody for joining in. It was really wonderful to see you all participate in this absolutely important conversation with Dr. Ross. Please do check out his books, The Explosive Child, The Kids We Lose, the movie, and there are other books. The website, Collaborative and Proactive Solutions, Life and Balance. It is definitely going to change your perspective on how we approach towards our child's behavioral issues, inshallah. Thank you so much. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.